Good afternoon again. I wanted to do another video about a map exercise that I did with my students on the Mongols. Now, for those who love history, the Mongols are probably one of the most, apart from Nazi Germany, at least as a history teacher, the Mongols are probably one of the area in history that's the most interesting for students. You know, due to the empire, the largest empire, land empire that we've ever had, and the violence, the conquests, and even the idea of connecting the Silk Road, which is something that I'm going to be showing in this video, how we do it. But in order to grasp the magnitude of the size of this empire, what I wanted to do was show a lesson that I did. And it's a little hectic because you're going to be dealing with literally 4 different maps. So you have the maps in front of you. And I think in order to make this lesson work, it's going to help to have all 4 maps on their screen. So even though it's a lot, and some are going to be like, for 7th grade, this is too much. I thought that as well. And I said, let's take a risk. Let's try to challenge and see what they can do. And you know what? It ended up being a lot better than I thought. And not only that, but the map that they have to make using the 4 maps, they're going to use for an assessment that I create. So basically, they're making their study guide, and I make the quiz, and they take it and using their map. So it really puts the pressure on them to try to be as accurate and as detailed in their map skills as possible. And I've done a lot of videos on maps, and what they're doing here is building on those map skills. So without further ado, you're going to want to start with some kind of discussion talking about the Mongols. Probably Asia, maybe, you know, I'm teaching in Japan, so it's a little bit different, but if you're teaching, you know, in the West, I also taught in the Middle East. Teaching Asia usually is very new. They might have some introduction to it in the younger, say PYP here, or elementary years, sometimes in middle school, but not so much. But I'm lucky that I'm able to spend at least a week on this topic alone. And I chose to do it in this fashion. So I hope you enjoy what I'm about to show you, but you have 3 maps in front of you. What I would do is print. This is what I did with this one here. So you have your blank map of Asia. And what they're going to do is they already know that they're going to need a map key. Okay, map keys are going to be key for this assignment, for this task, because they're going to need to be able to read their map. And because they're going to be putting colors, shapes, borders, lines, they're going to need all of that in a map key. And I told them that right away. I mean, as soon as they saw the 3 maps on the screen that you see right here, including the map that we're going to include with the location, here's the Asian map. Yeah. Bring this a little smaller so that we can see here. They will recognize right away that they need to be as careful in planning as possible. So here's how this is going to work. After you've done your introduction to the Mongols, you've discussed how they became such a large empire. I have a short video kind of talking about the key players, Genghis Khan, obviously, how he came to power, how he connected the Silk Road, how he was able to use horses and archery to take over most of Asia, and was almost always outnumbered, but used strategy and technique to overcome all obstacles, really, and create the largest land empire that we've ever seen. Once we've got all of that, now we need to work on the map skills. And I think the map skills are highly important because of the countries that are located within the empire. So focusing first on the empire, that's using this map. What they had to do, using the orange to the best of their tracing abilities, and I think it helps when they're both on the screen. So even if they have it printed in front of them and they're using a pen, they have to trace the empire of the orange in the best of their ability. Then I had them show me. We put the map on the screen, the paper map on the screen, right next to the orange map of the Mongol Empire, and we compared. What do you think? And I pointed to certain areas using a finger method. What do you see here? What do you see here? It really helped them visualize. I know they've had this practice because I know they're doing this in art. And what their art teacher has them do is the same thing. Look at something and then they have to illustrate it. So they're synthesizing, and that's a good skill. That's a skill even for 7th grade, which many are going to look at this lesson and say, I think it's a little too much rigor in this lesson for 7th grade. And I would say, no, it's something that I'm integrating or with other subjects that they're doing. So once they've copied the orange, which is the extent of the Mongol Empire, now we're going to focus on the countries. This is where it gets a little intense. So you have all of the countries of Asia. You have the orange, the Mongol Empire. Within the border, which they've already illustrated, now they have to use this map to tell me the countries today in 2020 that are inside, that were inside the Mongol Empire at its extent, okay? It took some time, but it was a good exercise, back and forth, and they really had to visualize and they really had to focus on those borders. I'm here to tell you, although it may sound a little bit too much for 7th grade, it worked. They were able to not only illustrate the countries, but have a good idea of the influence of the Mongols on those present day countries today. Okay, it got me talking about things. I have 2 Chinese students about the Great Wall, and both of those students had visited the Great Wall. We talked about it, and I said, okay, apart from the ancient part of the Great Wall, why do you think the Great Wall was finished? When they were able to say, oh, keep the Mongols out. And they could use geography to look at Mongolia and establish that. Okay, now, looking at the extent of Islam, okay? In the later part of the Mongol years, with not Temujin, the brother, which I'll make another video talking about, or not the distant cousin, we'll make another video talking about that later on. So once we have the countries that are inside the Mongol Empire, and we have the orange, which is the extent of the Mongol Empire, now comes our third map, which is the Silk Road. This is where it gets a little tedious, but they give you dots on the map. So if we extend it out, now that they're working on their final map, put the map that they're working on with the countries and the extent of the Mongol Empire with the Silk Road, and go ahead and label those roads, okay? Go ahead and put the dots, and what I wanted them to do, Byzantium was the ending point, and then you had Luoyang and Chang'an as your beginning points. And then these are the different trading routes, okay? Got us talking about trade. What are some different things you trade? It's not just goods. Once you get past the goods and you can talk about ideas, you could talk about religion, you could talk about languages. It really opens up that, not just the conversation about the extent of the empire, but it opens up the conversation about globalization, which is a topic that we focused on in the very first unit of study in MYP 2, by the way, MYP 2, grade 7. So once they have those elements on their map, now I gave them a quiz. I focused on mostly the present day countries. So in one of the presentations I showed them, there were 4 Khanats, which were part of the Mongol Empire, divided into 4 after Genghis Khan passed. Looking at those individual Khanats, they had to tell me the name of the present day countries that were inside those Khanats, okay? That were a series of questions that I provided. Next, they had to tell me the countries that passed along the Silk Roads, various routes from Chang'an, and I gave from not all the way to Byzantium, but for example, I would say to the Caspian Sea here. I would have the Aral Sea, just different areas on the map that you can connect where they have to look and find the present day countries. Obviously, when the quiz was over and I was able to assess the results, one of the conversations we had, what are some of the most significant countries today that were on the Silk Road? Clearly, it gets us talking about China and the significance of China and the importance of China. It really helps make not only the improvement of the building on their map skills, identifying countries in the present today that were part of an empire long ago, but the connection to globalization and trade. and what is traded, what does it mean to trade, and the benefits of trading, the negatives of trading, etc. So complicated, yes. Time consuming, a little bit. Rewarding, absolutely. I feel very good right now. In fact, I know that we are almost a bit ahead, and they're in the, shall we say, MYP 3 8th grade level range in terms of mapping. I know that because I've looked into the MYP 3 content that they need to know, and I've looked into the American social studies books at the 8th grade level, read through some of the standards and content there. They're in that range, which is good. They're actually ahead of where they should be. And I feel good about that. So moving ahead, we're going to continue to build on those map skills, looking at history, and continue studying the Mongols. So that's what I have for you. Please leave comments. Let me know what you think. Make learning exciting, and I hope you get something from this video.